Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians and honored guests, and our friends watching on Zoom. Welcome to the 33rd oldest, the 12th largest, and the very best Rotary Club on the planet, San Diego Rotary Club 33. Are we so excited to welcome President Will? Oh yeah, yes. Woo, what a big day. I also want to just quickly acknowledge all of the amazing guests in the room today. We are so thrilled that you're here to celebrate our fabulous Will Hage. And I would also like to acknowledge our visiting Rotarians. I see a lot of them, so if you could just quickly wave, we want to thank and acknowledge our visiting Rotarians. Thank you. To swear him in today, we're really excited to have Congressman Scott Peters. Please welcome Congressman Scott Peters.
And now, Will, I have the honor of swearing you in. So why don't you come up and bring your microphone so they can hear what you promise. Okay? Will, please raise your right hand. Will, do you solemnly swear to abide by and uphold the mission and bylaws of San Diego Rotary?
I will.
To perform your duties to the best of your ability and capacity?
I will.
To promote community welfare, develop teamwork, and a partnership for a greater San Diego?
I will.
And faithfully to discharge your duties of the office of President of the San Diego Rotary Club 33?
I will.
Congratulations, Will, and thank you for assuming the important responsibility of President of San Diego Rotary 33. And good luck.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. Oh, wow. Thank you, I appreciate it. Wow, there's a lot of you in the room today, and I appreciate every single one of you. At some level, we have a relationship, and I'm very honored to have that relationship. Many of you don't know this, but I was never supposed to be a Rotarian. In fact, if my family had its way, I'd probably be standing in front of the 110-year-old San Diego Kiwanis today. My grandfather was president of San Diego Kiwanis. My father was president of San Diego Kiwanis. Service was just something that was part of our family. And Rotary, it was never part of the plan. And it wasn't until a former member, Michelle Zelnick, who didn't know anything about my family's history with Kiwanis, asked me one simple question. And that question was, would you like to come to a Rotary meeting? And I said, sure, why not? I didn't really know much about Rotary. I immediately agreed, and a few weeks later, I walked into my first Rotary meeting. And when I walked in, there were a lot of familiar faces, a lot of people that I knew, but there were also a lot of people that my parents knew, or knew my parents, knew my grandparents. And in fact, by the end of that meeting, I was actually introducing Michelle to many of the members. As I was walking back to my car that day, I was reflecting, and I just felt like, wow, this really feels like home. This feels like family. And a few days later, Michelle called me and said, hey, are you interested in putting in an application? I said, yeah, I think so. But now I have to call my dad. And so I hung up the phone with Michelle, and I picked up the phone, called my dad, and he answered. And without any pleasantries or any other information, I just said, Dad, I'm joining San Diego Rotary. And there was silence. I knew there might be a little bit of pushback, maybe a lecture. Hopefully he hadn't just hung up the phone on me. And after a brief moment of silence, he said, that's where you belong. Well, if you had 1 o'clock on your calendar on your bingo card as far as when I'd get emotional, you win. At this time, I thought that he was just being supportive, but what I later realized is that he was absolutely right. I was concerned that I'd walked away from 2 generations of Kiwanis tradition. What I didn't know is that San Diego Rotary was already part of my family story. And after my grandfather's passing in 2008, I was going through his things and I found this old Club 33 Rotary directory from 1915. And as I went through it, there was my great-grandfather, Fred Hage, under the classification of butter, eggs, milk, and cream. When I joined Rotary in 2013, I was proudly introduced myself as a second-generation member of this club. And then January 20th, 2025 arrived. And this date sticks in my mind very clearly because, one, it's Nicole's birthday, and two, it was the day that we started demolition on our home remodel, and don't ask me if it's done yet. And by this time, I was already 6 months into my president nominee year. And I remember the contractor was pulling up, and as the contractor pulled up, I remembered that, oh my gosh, there's an old filing cabinet that I had forgotten to unload that was in a closet that was going to be demoed. The filing cabinet belonged to my grandparents. I think by now we had taken over the top 3 drawers. The bottom drawer was a bunch of their old paperwork. And so I grabbed the files, I start throwing them in bins. I get to the bottom drawer. I clear out the bottom drawer, and at the very bottom of the drawer, there's a single piece of paper laying flat. And I picked it up, and it was an old rotator. And as I scanned through it, I discovered that it was announcing the passing of my great-great-grandfather, Willard B. Hage. I couldn't believe it. I was in slight shock. You know, the timing of me going down this presidential path, what are the odds of that happening? So emotions started to come over me, kind of the way they are right now. It was almost like finding a missing piece to a puzzle that you didn't even realize was missing. And what really shook me was the date. So remember, the date that I found this was January 20th, 2025. The date on that rotator was February 17th, 1925. Almost 100 years to the day. At that point, it was very clear that somebody was trying to tell me something. Then just a few months ago, I was having a conversation with past President Bob Russell, and I said, Bob, is there anything that we have in the club, that old rotators or anything historical that I can highlight during my year? And he said, I'm sure we do. He said they're probably in storage at the office, but you probably want to start to try to find this book that somebody wrote in the 1980s on the history of San Diego Rotary. And so I went to eBay, just like I did for Will's patches, and of course I found the book of the history of San Diego Rotary. And as I flipped through the book, I was expecting to find information on my great-grandfather, my great-great-grandfather, which I did, but what I found next was even a bigger surprise. I came across a picture of my grandfather. In the margin of the page, you can't look at this table. Below the photo was the caption, Fred S. Hage Jr., San Diego Rotary's first third-generation member.